You don't notice it at first. That's how it begins. Not with a dramatic failure or a life-changing mistake, but with something much quieter, something almost invisible, a pattern of small choices that feel harmless in the moment, like checking your phone when you wake up, telling yourself you'll start tomorrow, delaying that idea you've been thinking about for months, maybe years, and convincing yourself that you still have time, that nothing is urgent, that your life hasn't really started yet. And this is where the trap begins. Because while you believe you're waiting for the right moment, life is not waiting for you. It's moving forward, with or without your permission. And every day that passes is not neutral. It's not empty. It's not something you can get back later. It's an investment. And whether you realize it or not, you're always investing it into something, either into your future or into your distractions. And the problem is that most people don't feel the consequences immediately, which makes it dangerously easy to repeat the same choices over and over again, until one day, without warning, the weight of those decisions becomes impossible to ignore, and you start to feel it, not as a single moment of regret, but as a quiet, persistent discomfort, a feeling that something is off, that you're not where you should be, that you're capable of more but somehow stuck in a life that doesn't reflect it. And deep down, you know the truth. You know that it wasn't one big mistake that brought you here. It was thousands of small ones, repeated daily, decisions that seemed insignificant at the time, but together shaped the direction of your entire life. And this is what makes it so dangerous, because you don't feel it happening. You don't see the cost in real time. You only see it later, when the gap between where you are and where you could have been becomes painfully clear. And by then, the hardest part is not changing your life. It's accepting that you had more control than you thought, that you weren't as limited as you believed, that the opportunities were there, closer than you realized. But you chose comfort. You chose familiarity. You chose to stay where it was safe. And now you're left wondering what could have happened if you had made a different choice. And in today's world, this cost is higher than ever before. Because we are living in a time where the barriers to success have never been lower, where information is free, tools are accessible, and artificial intelligence is amplifying what a single person can do to a level that was unimaginable just a decade ago. And yet, despite all of this, most people are still stuck, not because they lack ability, but because they are trapped in patterns of inaction, waiting for clarity, waiting for confidence, waiting for a sign that tells them it's time to start. But that sign never comes. And the longer they wait, the more they fall behind. Not in an obvious way, not overnight, but gradually, silently, as others who were once at the same level begin to move forward, experimenting, failing, learning, adapting, building momentum, and over time, that momentum turns into results, and those results create a gap that becomes harder and harder to close. And this is where comparison starts to hurt, because now it's not just about what you could have done, it's about what others did with the same opportunities you had. And this realization is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront something most people avoid. The idea that your life is a reflection of your choices, not your intentions, not your potential, but your actual decisions, the ones you make every single day. And the truth is that potential means nothing without action. It's just a possibility that never became real, and the world doesn't reward what you could do. It rewards what you actually do, consistently, over time. And this is why so many people feel frustrated, because they know they're capable of more. They feel it, they imagine it, but their daily actions don't align with that vision, and that misalignment creates a tension that grows over time, a gap between who you are and who you could be. And the longer that gap exists, the heavier it feels, until it turns into doubt, into anxiety, into a quiet fear that maybe you're already too late, that maybe you missed your chance. And this is one of the most dangerous beliefs you can have, because it leads to even more inaction, more hesitation, more delay, and the cycle continues, reinforcing itself, making it harder to break free. And this is exactly how people lose years of their lives without realizing it. Not through dramatic failures, but through passive decisions, through choosing comfort over growth, distraction over focus, consumption over creation. And the scariest part is that it feels normal. It feels acceptable because everyone around you is doing the same thing, scrolling, waiting, delaying, telling themselves the same stories. And when something is normalized, it becomes invisible. And when it becomes invisible, it becomes dangerous because you stop questioning it. You stop challenging it. You accept it as reality. And this is where most people stay, stuck in a life they didn't consciously choose, but slowly created through repeated inaction. And meanwhile, the world keeps accelerating. Technology keeps advancing. Opportunities keep evolving. And those who are willing to adapt, to learn, to take action despite uncertainty, begin to move ahead at a pace that seems almost unfair. And it's not because they are special. It's because they made a different choice. They chose to start before they felt ready. They chose to act even when it was uncomfortable. They chose to take responsibility for their time, their energy, their future. And that choice, repeated consistently, compounds into something powerful, something that changes their trajectory completely. And this is where everything shifts. Because once you understand that your life is not determined by one big decision, but by thousands of small ones, you realize that you don't need to change everything overnight. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need certainty. You just need to make a different choice right now, in this moment. A small shift, a simple decision to move in a different direction. And while it may not feel significant at first, over time, it becomes everything. Because consistency turns small actions into massive results. And in a world where AI is amplifying effort, accelerating learning, and removing barriers, the rewards for those who take action are greater than ever before, but so are the consequences for those who don't. And this is the silent cost that most people ignore, not because they don't care, but because they don't see it. They don't feel it immediately. And by the time they do, it's already compounded into something much bigger, something harder to reverse. And this is why awareness is so important, because the moment you become aware of the cost of your choices, you gain the ability to change them, to interrupt the pattern, to choose differently. And that's where everything begins. Not with a dramatic transformation, but with a decision, a conscious choice to stop drifting and start directing your life, to stop waiting and start building, to stop consuming and start creating. And it won't be easy. It won't feel natural at first, because you're going against patterns that have been reinforced over time. But that's exactly why it matters, because growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in resistance, in effort, in the willingness to do what most people avoid. And the more you lean into that, the more your life begins to change. Not instantly, but gradually, and then suddenly. And one day, you look back and realize that everything shifted because of a few simple decisions you made when it would have been easier not to, and that's the power of choice. Not as an abstract idea, but as a daily practice, something you live through your actions, not your intentions. And the most important thing to understand is that it's never about perfection. It's about direction. It's about consistently choosing the path that aligns with the life you want to build. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncertain, even when no one is watching, because those are the moments that define you, that shape your future, that determine whether you stay where you are or move towards something greater. And the truth is, you are always choosing, even when you think you're not, even when you're just going through the motions, because not choosing is still a choice, and it comes with a cost that is paid in time, in missed opportunities, in unrealized potential. And the longer you ignore it, the higher that cost becomes, until one day, it's no longer something you can overlook. It becomes your reality. And by then, the only question left is whether you're willing to accept it or finally decide to change it, because the power to do so has always been there. Not in your circumstances, not in external factors, but in your choices, the ones you make every single day. And the moment you take ownership of that, truly understand it, and act on it, everything begins to shift. And the life you once thought was out of reach starts to become possible. Not because something changed outside of you, but because you changed the way you decide. And in the end, that's what it all comes down to. Not talent, not luck, not timing, but the simple, often overlooked reality that your life is the sum of your choices, and the cost of ignoring that truth is a life that never fully becomes what it could have been.